Hello, everyone. Welcome to Tune In Tuesday. We're super excited to have you here, and we have a guest today. I'm just making sure we are streaming on all platforms so that you can see us everywhere. So, give me one moment to make sure of that, and then we're going to jump into a really exciting conversation. I think I'm going to learn a lot here. Um, all right, so we are good to go. So I think I'm going to learn a lot here today. We are talking about fertility tracking and ovulation. And I think that this is great for anyone to hear about, whether you're already a parent, you're trying to become a parent, or you know some parents. I always talk about how, like, childbirth, conception, everything from like conception to having a child is a series of miracles. And so this is like talking about like the beginning stages of those miracles. So, Melony, I'm so excited to have you here from Temp to have this conversation. I'm going to pass it over to you for a quick introduction, and then we're going to start jumping into talking about it. So, tell us a little bit about you, about the work you do at Temp and like why you feel this is important.
Thanks, Dom. Yeah, my name's Mel. I'm a certified fertility awareness educator and also head of customer experience over at Temp. But I, like many people, got into this space because of my own personal experience with hormone health. Discovered fertility tracking, went down the rabbit hole, and have never come back out again. But it's something that I'm very passionate about. It's something that, like many women who discover it, wish that I had learnt earlier in life. But, I am now super grateful that we have the opportunity, through my work with Temp, to be able to, allow this education to spread to more women and give people the tools to be able to track their cycles and track their ovulation. So yeah, that's why I'm here, and it's something that we love to do.
Love it. Make sure you all follow at Temp. You'll see it scrolling on the bottom of the screen so you can stay up to date on everything that they're doing there. Super excited to have you here. We like to have parents and experts come on and do exactly what we're about to do today, so that we are giving parents like resources and information that can help them parent their way and really give them the information they need through challenges, but also through
Yeah.
wins. And so let's jump into our
Okay,
conversation.
nice.
Um, so, why is fertility and ovulation tracking important?
Because it gives us an insight into our inner health. That's the reality. Our menstrual cycle is a window into our endocrine system, what's happening within us. And so it plays an important role. Those hormones that are produced throughout the ovulation cycle are important to other areas of our health as well. And it's just one of those key pieces of being a woman that can just give us so much more insight.
Uh oh, let me see. Oh, there you
Well, I
go.
think we had a little bit. Sorry about that. Um, yeah,
Yeah,
but yeah, it's just such an
I,
important insight into be able to see how we are tracking overall with our health.
yeah, I remember. So I'm 40, and I remember learning very little about like true the fullness of what a cycle
Yes.
was. I would only learn about like when your period comes and like a little bit about like what you need to
Yeah.
be doing. And then over time, I learned a little bit more about like history and what women used to do when they were like on their cycles and um, how, syncing cycles with like other women you're
Mm.
around can happen and like very interesting things. But I still don't think I fully understand like the insights that like the menstrual cycle can tell you, particularly about hormones and your health. So, like, what are some key insights that ovulation tracking and fertility tracking can tell you?
Mm. So, this is so common. We are taught about our periods because that's the obvious thing that we experience, but we're not taught about what's going on internally and in the background to make all that happen and what's the purpose of it all. So, cycle
Yeah.
tracking and fertility tracking is about tracking ovulation, not periods, but our ovulation event. And our ovulation event is very finite in the way that the different hormones, the way that the brain communicates with the ovaries, and then back again. So these are the insights that we can gain when we track ovulation. So we can start getting insights about our overall hormone health, how these ovarian and brain hormones are functioning and how it's all signaling to each other.
Yeah, I didn't realize with women in particular how much hormones can like kind of impact your day to
They
day.
do.
Um, it's been interesting for me to like try to. I'm like, what is going on? I am feeling this way all of a sudden. I don't know what's happening. I gotta go to the
Yeah.
doctor. And the doctor's like, everything's fine, and I'm
Mm.
like, oh, it could be hormones.
Yeah.
Which ones? So that I, I'm like, which ones? Because this was a shocker to me, right? And the good thing is like realizing it wasn't, this scary emergent or urgent
Yeah.
event. But I'm also like, wow, I really, it lets you know like how much on average like people just aren't learning about this information. So I'm glad to hear about like the insights that fertility tracking and ovulation tracking can give you, and also thinking about like ovulation being finite, like
Mm.
that it takes for communication and like specific kind of processes in your body to even trigger that event, and then when it's done there's other things
Yeah,
happening until that happens again, right? And
exactly.
so what are some common like misconceptions about ovulation and fertility tracking that you'd like to clear up?
Oh, I like this question. So probably number one, that tracking our bleeding patterns, period tracking, is not the same as ovulation tracking, because we can bleed without ovulating. So there's a difference. We can experience different types of bleeds. Not all bleeding is a true menstrual period, and that was a huge thing for me to learn. So yeah, we might be able to track our bleeding patterns, but that doesn't necessarily give us insight into what's happening in terms of ovulation. So that's probably one of the biggest myths. So there's a difference here, and fertility tracking is just that tracking the various or multiple fertility signs to be able to pinpoint if we're ovulating and when we're ovulating. So that's a number one myth. Another big myth is that unpleasant PMS symptoms, bad periods, pain, cramping, all of those negative things we experience are not normal. Even though they're common, they're not normal. So that's another
Oh,
big myth, because we're kind of made to feel like, yeah, that's normal. Don't worry about it. Just put up with it. But all of those things are our body telling us something, that something's not quite right. And it is possible to be able to experience almost pain-free periods, very little PMS in a nice, healthy cycle. So that's another myth that we love to clear up.
that is like
Yeah.
like for me, because I'm like,
Well,
what? It's not, now I almost thought something was wrong with
mm,
me when I was younger because I couldn't really track it. And I'm an '80s baby, so you're talking late
mm,
'90s. I'm having like a menstrual, and people are saying like you need to track it on a calendar, and I'm like,
well,
okay, except it feels like it never ends, right? Like, and then people are like, your body is giving you signals about when it's coming, and I'm like 12, like, no, it's not. And they're like, you don't get cramps, you don't get this, you don't get. And I'm like, no,
that's
like
good.
I
That's
don't have
good. That's
any
what it's supposed to be
indications of
like. It
that.
should just be, come without any fanfare. Our periods should be that way. And
Yeah,
yes, some mild cramping, a little bit of discomfort is normal, of course, because the uterus is contracting during that time, but it shouldn't be so much that it's impacting our daily life. That's for sure. And
yeah,
actually, one
that is.
one more big
Go ahead.
myth is that taking hormonal birth control fixes menstrual or period problems. That's a myth. It doesn't fix period problems. It masks symptoms, but it doesn't fix the underlying cause. Because if we're taking hormonal birth control, especially like the combined pill, we're actually suppressing ovulation. So we are no longer having a natural cycle at all. So that's also a big insight, especially when it comes to, we're talking about, parenting and definitely the trying to conceive journey, but all of this can have an impact, and it can have an impact from a very young age if that is the common thought that, okay, we're having period problems, let's go to the doctor, start taking the pill as teenagers. But what's actually
Hmm.
going on here? What's happening, and why are we not able to have a relatively fuss-free natural cycle?
Yeah, and that's another for me, because you hear it all the
Yeah,
time. That information is still very much going around. It is very common advice, I would say, that is given to teens and
oh, for
adults
sure.
of all
Yeah,
ages. Like you hear, I still hear it. I think I literally read it like a
yeah,
couple days ago. That was a suggestion for
yeah.
someone, and I'm like, I wonder if that's true. Like, is
Yes,
that true? I don't know, y'all. I had a very small window of being on hormonal birth control to help control like period length and like regularity. And it caused me other problems. And so I was like, actually, this is worse than what was happening before. So I'm going to be done
yeah,
with it. And so it was very short lived for
yeah.
me. But I know people who are on it for a really long time, and you wonder like, is it fixing the underlying issue? And to hear you say it kind of masks the
Well, it
symptoms.
does.
That makes sense.
Yes, it does, 100%. And I mean, I'm not a parent, and I'm not I was on hormonal birth control for a very long time. And that's the change that happened for me when I discovered this information, got away from it, and started to experience natural cycles for the first time in a very long time. How it changed my mental health and my physical health just blew me away.
Yeah,
So yeah, and it's
yeah,
just sad that sometimes we got to get to that point to discover it, or many still don't discover it at all. But as parents,
yeah,
especially as mums, and if you've got daughters, and if you've got nieces and sisters, and it's valuable, and it's something that can really help a lot of people. If we just have this small snippet of knowledge about what the true natural
yeah.
cycle is and what our body is telling us when it's not working well.
I love that. So for women with irregular
Mhm.
cycles, like I talked about me having, or PCOS, what are the best ways for them to track their ovulation accurately?
Well, tracking our basal body temperature or a nightly sleeping temperature. I mean, obviously, I'm going to say with the help of Temp Drop, but nightly tracking of a temperature result is going to give you real-time information about what's happening. Okay, yes, with irregular cycles, we can't kind of do that prediction ahead of time. We can't estimate. I mean, even in regular cycles, that ovulation can change. So we don't want to get too stuck on estimates and predictions. But with long irregular cycles, we don't have a chance of predicting when ovulation may occur. But our body still lets us know when it's attempting to ovulate.
Mhm.
So long irregular cycles are often multiple attempts at ovulation. Our body tries, it tries. And the way that we know it's trying is primarily through tracking our cervical mucus. That is that's a number one symptom to track along with temperature, because it can sort of let you know in the moment if our body is gearing up for an ovulation attempt. And then our temperature, adding that with the cervical mucus, can let us know if the ovulation attempt was successful. And when we finally see that we have ovulated, we can confirm it. Now we can count down the days for the rest of our cycle until our period is due, because the time from ovulation to our next period is relatively static. It's around about 2 weeks, but anywhere from sort of 10 to 16 days. But for each individual, it's usually around the same amount of days. So, that's the benefit. We will know when we've ovulated, then we can prepare ahead for our next period, or when we're trying to conceive, accurately time our testing and not just save ourselves so much heartache with testing at the wrong time,
Yeah,
because we're trying to base it on a textbook 28-day cycle, which doesn't work. So this is the benefit. We
yeah,
can identify if we're ovulating and when we're ovulating, then time our testing and time when we expect our period to be due.
yeah. What would you say to a mama who's listening to this right now, or a couple who's listening to this right now that says, "Oh my gosh, that sounds complicated. Like I can't do that." Like, what would you say to them to encourage them?
I would say grab a temp drop and start, because it's not, this takes the complication out of tracking that daily temperature. That's a starting point. So just take a step and start. And then as you go, yes, it will be all confusing in the beginning and it won't make sense. And we try to overanalyze, but we can connect through communities. We can connect. We can even work with an instructor one-on-one to be able to speed up our knowledge. But just take that first step and start learning about our body, because despite what our goal is, okay, we're on a trying to conceive journey. But remember that these insights are going to give you health insights. These insights are going to allow you to be able to advocate for your own health care. So rather than going to a healthcare provider and just stabbing in the dark and going, I don't know if I'm ovulating, and they're like, let's do a blood test. You're not. You can now go with real data and go, actually, you know what? I'm having 50-day cycles and I'm not ovulating
Mhm.
until day 43. And so all of this is just going to allow you to understand where you're at, despite whatever your ultimate goal is. Remember that this is something that can be used for health tracking for the rest of your reproductive years.
Yeah. And I think it's always
Mm.
empowering when I've been able to like go to my healthcare provider and say,
Yes.
here, like I have notes, I have data, I have something from a
Yeah.
tracker, like, I was having issues with sleep. And I'm like, this is what my watch is saying is happening in the middle of the night. I keep waking up like this. And so now we were able to talk about like, oh, no wonder this is why like you're not, you know,
Functioning.
this is why you're
Not
tired at
functioning.
this certain point of the day and
Yeah.
whatever. But then my doctor's like, well, there could be more reasons than that. Let's look at your
Mm.
hormones, and then found out my reproductive hormones were fine, but thyroid was underactive. And so, but I had been talking to her about this for a year and I didn't have any
Mm.
data. Things moved a lot faster when I
Mm.
said, here, like I'm telling you, this is happening here. Here's the data. And so I would encourage you, if you're listening, you're thinking this sounds complicated. It's so empowering to have that
Yeah.
information and also just to have it and like see things over
Yes.
time. As you make changes, right? Like you're able to use something. It sounds like you're able to use Temp Drop and see how things can adjust because you may get some information that helps you make a lifestyle change that adjusts like what happens with ovulation or your ability to
Yeah.
conceive. And for some people, you can tell me this, like, does it also help people realize that they actually can conceive? Because I think there are people out there sometimes who are
Yeah.
like, I don't think I can, and so they just kind of write it
Yes.
off. Can this help them determine if they actually can conceive?
Well, it can help you determine if you are ovulating. And that's, I mean, ovulation is necessary for conception. And then are you timing your intercourse in your fertile window? So those are the two things we need. We need an egg and we need good
Yep.
timing. And this is what fertility
Yep.
tracking can give you. Like I said, rather than just flailing around in the dark and trying to time things based on what should be, you will now be able to make decisions based on you, your normal, your data, um, your own individual cycle. And that's just so integral. And then you might be able to pick up insights like, is my luteal phase sufficient for conception? We need a certain
Mm.
amount of days that luteal phase needs to last for in order to be able to support implantation. So now we can get extra insights, and now we can go to our healthcare provider and get progesterone testing at the right time, for example. So there's just so many reasons why, and always just keeping that bigger picture in mind that over time you will get insights about what's happening.
I love that. And I love the mentioning of over
Mm.
time. I don't want people to think like, okay, it's a quick fix, right? Um, the information is going to be gathered over time and it gets like more accurate, right? You get more accurate data with anything over time. So I'm not saying it's going to take you all forever.
No.
I am saying I'm like picking up on your keywords here of like over
Yeah.
time and how critical and useful that information is. Um, so how does Temp Drop work?
How does it
Like,
work?
what what makes it different from other fertility tracking
Okay,
methods?
so Temp Drop's made up of two primary components. We've got the sensor, the wearable sensor, which we wear on our axillary artery. Let me put it the right way, up here. And you just pop that on at night, turn it on, and wear it overnight. And it all during your sleep, it gathers all the temperature data that you need, and then you sync it to the app, and it will give you a nightly sleeping temperature. So that's taken care of. You don't have to worry about trying to capture a waking temperature with an oral thermometer. Take that stress off and let Temp Drop do that part of it for you. And then the app has a fertility tracking component in which you can track all these extra symptoms. Say if you're doing LH testing or you're tracking cervical mucus, you can track your moods, you can track the PMS, you can put notes in there. So then that provides you that whole picture. You've got your temperatures, you add the extra data, and then you can get those insights. Now, the app does have an optional premium subscription, which will give fertility insights if you want them, or if you're feeling a bit more confident and you're more versed, you can also manually pop things in your chart and work it out for yourself. So it's got something for everyone, and it's also got a lot of educational materials. We've got an academy. If you're not sure about how to fertility track, just get started, work through the academy. And there's also insights that will pop up through your cycle or through your tracking journey to give you more information about this whole world of fertility tracking.
I love that you just put it on at night, because when you mentioned that earlier, I'm like, okay, so yeah, you're gonna like wake up and take your temperature, and you're like, actually, no, you're gonna put this thing on your arm and go to bed, and then wake up and take it off and sync it to the app, and it's gonna go, and then there's also this education component and these insights that are gonna pop up. Someone in the chat is asking, this sounds amazing. Like, where can I get this? So where can they get one of these?
Just go to the website, tempdrop.com, and it's available to buy there. There's some countries where we have local distributors, but the website has all the information about that. But yeah, just buy it online. It'll be shipped out to you, and you've got it.
And we'll make sure to share that as well, especially for like the reposts and people who catch the replay, so that it's easy for you to click the link and purchase. Thank you for explaining how it works. I think that's like super helpful for people, because you're like talking about this process that can be like super complicated, and then you're like, and we've made it much easier, and like easier for you to like fit into your day-to-day life. So I think that's awesome. So beyond conception, how can fertility awareness and ovulation tracking support overall health and hormone balance? I know you like alluded to this a little bit. Tell us more about what this can tell us about our health and our hormones.
Yeah, so once we learn, I mean, it takes a little bit of extra digging, but we can do it. There's resources available to kind of dig and learn what, a regular healthy cycle looks like in terms of the temperature patterns, because the temperatures are influenced primarily by the two prime hormones, estrogen and progesterone. So when you track that across the cycle, we can see this rise and fall of the two primary hormones, and that will just give us some insights into how things are going. Like we've already mentioned, short luteal phase can be a key indicator that progesterone production isn't adequate. Long irregular cycles, that can let us know that these multiple ovulation attempts are happening, but it's not coming off quite right. And then when we track our other symptoms like our PMS, our moods, cramping, whatever that might be, we can kind of then, it's like a mini diary, we correlate, okay, where did this happen in my cycle? Was it around ovulation, for example? Am I suffering bad PMS around ovulation? So that can give us some insight. Or is it towards the end of the cycle? Where's this cramping happening? We can also track things like, our period length and flow. Those are things that can help us understand, is it healthy? Is it looking normal? Spotting throughout the rest of the cycle. If we pop all those in the chart, we just get this bigger picture that, does it look right, or are there indications that something's not quite right in the way that our ovulation cycle is happening? And then, like I said, over time, as you mentioned, you might make a change. You might try a new medication, a new diet, a lifestyle change. Then you can see, is it looking better or is it looking worse? So you can get an idea, because not every supplement suits everybody. We're all very individuals. So sometimes we can take things and go, actually, this is making me feel worse, so let's back that off. But this one's making me feel better. So yeah, it's just this way of tracking your cycle, your hormones in real time at home, rather than having to try to go and get testing done and think about it. So, and like I said before, this is something, a healthy ovulation cycle is a sign of health, and it's something that we can use throughout our whole reproductive life. And then heading into the perimenopause phase of our life, towards menopause, it all affects those stages of life. So it's not something just for one purpose.
I love that. I recently learned about perimenopause and was like doing some testing around that as well. And I'm like, I hadn't even heard of it. I remember hearing menopause, and I remember asking, when does
Yeah.
that happen? Right? Like,
Yeah.
and then I'm like, I feel like I'm experiencing this. This looks very much like, menopause or
Yeah.
perimenopause, right? And I'm like, here are all the things. So what I didn't have is this type of
Yes.
information, right? Like, when is this happening? Because it very well could just be ovulation
It could
symptoms,
be.
right? Like, I could be getting these hot
Yeah.
flashes around this time, or like feeling tired around a different time, or it could have nothing to do with my cycle at
Yes.
all. Like, it could be a medication side effect. It could be, right? And so I think putting all this information together and having a tool, and a tracker like Temp Drop really helps to give you the information to at least take away any fears that people may have, or at least give them information to say, here's what's actually happening, here's what it could be, and let's, get you something
Yeah.
for you. Let's create a plan for you, no matter what your goal is, whether it is, you know, conception and having a baby or
Yeah.
not. Like,
Well,
maybe that's not your goal right now. Maybe it's, I know that I want to have a baby eventually, but I
I
want
want
to
to fit
check on like
in.
my hormone health
Yeah.
and, and my cycle, so I have this information, so when I am ready, right? Like, I feel like my body is ready too.
Yes, 100%. And that's what I love about it. Like I track, diligently. So I have for many years, cycle after cycle, always looking back, going, how did that look? How did I feel? These different events that have happened. Oh, I was sick there, or, a stressful event happened in my life here. How did it affect my cycle? And then for me too, heading towards that time, I'm just sort of waiting around now thinking perimenopause is going to come along any minute, but I feel very equipped for it. I'm not afraid. I
Yeah,
feel super equipped for that phase of my life, and being able to understand when things change, why do I feel this way? Is it normal? And yeah, just that's what I love about it. And you can also communicate that to your partner as well, and that's a very key
uh,
piece of information, because how many times have we kind of just, be an emotional roller coaster mess and not know why and not be able to communicate that. However, when we've got
yeah,
that data on a chart, now we know why, and now we can plan.
yeah.
And this is another avenue of cycle tracking. We call it cycle syncing. So then we can plan ahead, because based on our own individual patterns, we know it's likely we will feel this way at this time. And so that's another key insight that we can learn when we're tracking our ovulation events.
I love that. One last question, more personal for me, and I imagine maybe
Yeah.
other people are curious. So I have two kids. I know that I'm done. Right? Can I still use Temp Drop for hormonal and period tracking for other reasons? My assumption is yes, but are there, if there are folks who are like, I don't want to conceive, but I do want this information
Yeah.
actually, would you recommend Temp Drop?
Yeah, well, I
I'm assuming
mean,
yes.
Temp is not approved as a contraceptive device, so we'll put that out there. The Temp app doesn't
Yes.
have an avoiding pregnancy protocol, so don't like buy it and think it's going to tell you how to do that. However,
Yeah.
this formula and method of ovulation tracking our temperatures, tracking our cervical mucus, is something that has been used for many years successfully. It's something that's been scientifically studied to be able to accurately identify the fertile phase of each cycle. So this is still a tool that many women use for practicing fertility awareness, no matter what their reasons are. And like we said, you're still going to get those health insights from that. So yeah, so the reasons are many and varied. It's a tool. It's a tool that you can use to be able to just put that picture of your ovulation cycle together.
I love it. Yeah, I learned so much. I'm like, this could give me some like
Yeah.
interesting insights just into, you know, what my cycle looks like with the, I use a couple of different apps that are just going off the information that I put in, and if I forget to put symptoms, or if I don't think they have anything to do, right, with a period or anything like that, it doesn't have those
Mm,
insights. And so to be able to have Temp drop on next to the bed. I know I'm going to put it on every night. Then I'm going to go in, sync it, enter information. For me, I'm like, there could be some really helpful information here over time for me, even if I know, like, I don't plan to have any more kids. I've got my two and I'm good. So wanted to make sure that people realize like there are other reasons you can like use this and use these health insights as well, to just give you information about your fertility health and ovulation, like,
and your
window and those days and things like that.
And remember that the whole ovulation cycle is triggered from the brain, from the pituitary gland, from the hypothalamus, and those are key for sending signals to other parts of your body, like your thyroid, your adrenals. So, you know, if things aren't looking, I'm sorry, I think we dropped a little bit there.
Yep, I think you're back.
Yeah, just to,
you were saying the adrenals.
Yes, that's right. So, you know, it's the endocrine system. It's all linked. So if it's not, you know, if those menstrual cycle hormones aren't working well, then that can be a key indicator that, hey, maybe something else is not working well either, and it's worth investigating.
I love that. Any other advice, suggestions, anything you want to leave with our audience tonight? While you do that, I'm gonna check and see if we have any questions in the chat. But yeah, anything you want to leave us with tonight?
My biggest advice is jump in and try it. Like anybody that's of reproductive age, it's worth, you know, trying this, seeing what you can learn, start that education process, and definitely give it at least 3 months. Like, don't give up too soon, because like we mentioned, sometimes it just takes a little minute for our patterns to become apparent and for us to be able to get those insights over time. We all have a learning curve. It can seem overwhelming at times, but it's definitely worth it. So just give it a try.
Yeah, we got comments around like how helpful this information was, how folks hadn't learned it or learned it, you know, in their mid 30s after having their second baby. Comments about where they can get one, and just a lot of gratitude for us having this conversation, which is really what we're trying to do here.
Right.
We want to be able to give like information, give insights. We know that some of this stuff is probably floating around people's heads, and you know, you're trying to research it on your own and try to figure out where to get it from. And so what we like to do here at ParentPorch is bring the information to you here with me on Tuesdays and beyond. So Mel, thank you so much.
Thank you so much
for joining me today.
It's amazing. And, you know, for anyone wanting to learn more, the Temp Drop website has an amazing blog section with so much around all of this. So go and take a little look. But thank you for the work you do. And thanks for having us today.
Yeah, make sure you all follow at Temp Drop. I have it scrolling on the bottom, so go follow Temp Drop. Go to the Temp Drop website, tempdrop.com. That's where you can find more information. They have blogs. They have information on how you can purchase a device, and really get this information. And definitely share this with people in your life. This will be up on YouTube, and so you can go actually see that right now. Go tag people in the comments and go share it on the ParentPorch page. Make sure that you like and subscribe on Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube, so that you never miss a Tune In Tuesday live stream. And also, we have an amazing parenting summit coming up in just a few weeks, so you definitely want to make sure you're subscribed and following so you get that information when we release that really soon. Again, thank you, Mel. Thank you to the Temp Drop team. I learned so much, and as a mom of a daughter, I can't wait to equip her with this information sooner, much sooner in her life. Yeah, just so that she's aware. I'm probably gonna go eat dinner with my mom and like talk to her about this too.
I've had these conversations with my mom too. Yeah, it's just like,
I just learned so much in such a short period of time. Yeah. I love it. Have a good rest of your day. Thank you so much for joining us, everyone. Thank y'all for joining us tonight, and I will see you next week.
Thank you so much. Bye.
You're welcome.